It was 1941. The world was on fire. Across the Atlantic, Hitler's war machine had plunged Europe into chaos. America stood on the brink, teetering between neutrality and destiny. And while the headlines blare of nations falling and alliances forming, another battle was brewing quietly. One not of bombs or bullets, but of prejudice and possibility. In Alabama, at an airfield named Tuskegee, a group of young African American men were learning to fly. Not because they were welcome, but because they refused to be denied. You see, there was a widely held belief at the time, even among top military brass, that black men didn't have the intelligence, the courage, or the discipline to fly combat planes. But these men, pilots, mechanics, navigators, instructors, were determined to prove otherwise. With straight backs and sharper minds, they flew into history. They trained tirelessly, endured discrimination ruthlessly, and fought valiantly, first in North Africa, then over the skies of Italy, escorting bombers that earned a reputation for excellence, so much so that bomber crews began requesting the Red Tails by name. Red Tails, named for the crimson paint on the tails of their P-51 Mustangs, became a symbol of hope in the clouds. Now, here's the part you did not know. One of those Tuskegee Airmen, Lieutenant Colonel Harry T. Stewart, Jr., flew with distinction, earning the Distinguished Flying Cross after downing 3 enemy planes in a single day. After the war, he returned home to find no parades, no open doors, no flying jobs. Not even commercial airlines would hire a black pilot. He went back to school, became an engineer, raised a family. He quietly lived the life of a hero in a world that barely noticed. Decades later, in his late 80s, Harry Stewart visited the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. A guide, unaware of who he was, began explaining the exhibit on the Tuskegee Airmen. Harry just smiled. And as the tour ended, someone whispered to the guide, "That's one of them." The guide turned pale and stammered, "One of who?" Harry extended his hand, chuckled, and said softly, "One of the Red Tails." But here's the twist, the surprise ending. A young boy overheard the exchange. Wide-eyed, he tugged his father's sleeves and asked, "Daddy, can I be a red tail too someday?" Harry bent down, met the boy's eyes, and said, "You already are. Every time you dream bigger than the world expects, you fly with us." The story of the Tuskegee Airmen, especially Lieutenant Colonel Harry T. Stewart, Jr., is more than a chapter of American history. It is a living parable of courage in the face of doubt, dignity in the face of discrimination, and perseverance in the face of impossibility. These men didn't wait for the world to believe in them before they took flight. They believed in the God who created them with purpose, intelligence, and worth. They trained, fought, excelled, and persevered, even when the nation they defended did not yet defend them. They reaped a harvest of legacy, honor, and inspiration that continues to lift generations. So, what about you? Maybe life has told you that you can't. Maybe society has set limits on your potential. Maybe your past whispers that you are not enough. But God says otherwise. He says, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you a future and a hope," in Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 11. He says, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made," in Psalms 139 verse 14. The scripture says, With God, all things are possible in Matthew chapter 19 and verse 26. Lieutenant Colonel Stewart told that little boy, "Every time you dream bigger than the world expects, you fly with us." And God tells you, "Every time you trust me more than your circumstances, you soar with me." And now that you know the rest of this story, you have a story to tell.